Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. I definitely want to thank you for tuning into my channel. I am, of course, as always, your wonderful host, Freakazoid67216. I know you guys haven't really seen me too terribly much in a while. I've had a bunch of stuff going on where I ended up not being able to make any content for a while. Now that things have finally kind of settled down, and I know the last video you guys saw from me was the video about the Sabrent multi-USB charger. If you guys are in need of one, definitely go to Sabrent's website. Check out my video about it. It is an awesome product. Does 4 USB Type-C ports, 4 USB-A ports. The Type-C ports go up to 100 watts per individual port, and you can real-time monitor all the power coming off of it per port to see what is drawing the most power and everything else in between. I've been using mine for a while that Sabrent graciously sent to me. That I have my Asus ROG Ally and dock plugged into it. I also use it to charge my headphones, my cell phone when I'm sitting there and they need to charge, my travel battery, and so much more. Well worth getting a hold of, well worth checking out. But that's not the issue at hand here. The issue at hand here is, as you saw in the description, I'm calling Lyft out on something. Before I break down as to what, I have a question for everybody out there that is a driver for rideshare that have been doing things like Uber and Lyft for several years. To give a little bit of a backdown, I have been driving Uber for over 6 years. I have completed a couple of thousand trips on Uber within the time frame. I have been driving Lyft for 4.5 years. I've completed over 1,000 trips on Lyft during that time frame. I have a question for every single driver that is out there that might not realize this, but here is my issue. First and foremost, while you are out driving, do you stick with Lyft navigation, or do you switch to something like Waze or Google Maps or Apple Maps? Do you switch to those, or do you stay with Lyft? And while you are currently on a trip and you have one come up that's very financially sound, like let's say it's combined for pickup and drop off 10 miles, Lyft is offering you $30. I'm just using this as an example. You decide to say, yes, I want that. You're following the navigation software that's not Lyft's. You take a slightly different route. You're not paying attention to it, and then all of a sudden, the better trip that you've accepted that's in your queue goes away. And then a notification pops up saying, hey, there's this trip available. Do you want this? And it's a garbage trip. Have you seen that happen? And do you stick with the Lyft navigation, or do you switch? The reason why I ask these and the reasons why I bring this up is because I just had this happen to me, and I'm going to give a breakdown as to what happened. Being up here in Kansas City, I picked somebody up from their job and took them home. It was a decent length trip, paid me over $35. Pickup wasn't very far away from where I was currently at. The travel was about 25 miles in total. It was well worth it because it was going to be over $1 per mile. Okay, so to continue on with my video. So I had traveled about halfway to drop off my passenger that was for the trip that was going to pay me $35. I'm not complaining. It was an awesome trip. I get a ride request halfway through that was going to pick somebody up within a couple of miles from the drop-off, take them to a nearby hospital that was a couple of miles away. It was going to pay me about over $20. I gladly accepted that because I knew that was going to be well financially worth it, and it was going to be well over that dollar per mile that we all need to try to strive to get to when doing rideshare. That being said, I'm following Waze because Lyft does not have real-time update when roads are closed for construction, especially if it is like a last-minute closure. So I switched over to Waze to take this trip. As I am traveling, Lyft has me going a very specific direction to drop this person off. I knew the road that the path it wanted me to take. It would have taken me down a city street with a whole bunch of stoplights. I would have ended up having to put a lot of unnecessary wear and tear on my brakes and my transmission, constantly accelerating and decelerating, stopping at stoplights, and everything else in between to drop this person off. Waze had me continue on the highway, merge onto a different highway to go towards a street where the highway was just a couple of blocks away from where the drop-off was. That's awesome. Straight shot, efficient, fast to the point. It avoided the closures from the construction and everything else in between. So I'm traveling this path. I rolled right past the street that it wanted me to turn down. The moment that I deviated from the Lyft designated navigation, my queued trip of $20 gets taken from me because they wanted to punish me for not following their path. So I am calling Lyft out. I hope every single driver out there sees this. I hope every single driver shares this. I hope you give your response behind it, and if you've noticed this or not, because this needs to be taken off their system. Lyft is actively punishing drivers for not following their navigation when you queue a trip. I have had multiple instances where I have accepted trips as I was following the navigation from either Google Maps or Waze, whichever one I decided to use. The trip that I had queued got taken away from me because I was not following the Lyft navigation. I didn't think anything of it at first. I just thought, oh, passenger must have canceled. Because when I've spoke to Lyft about it, they've even said that the passenger canceled the trip. No, they didn't. I've talked to several passengers. I have been told by several passengers that they have had moments when they queue up a ride request to be picked up, to be taken somewhere. They have had multiple drivers accept the trip and then get shifted to a different driver, then get shifted to a different driver before somebody finally got to them to pick them up to take them where they needed to go. And it is because Lyft is actively punishing drivers for not following their navigation. So Lyft, you need to stop that. You need to take that off the system. I hope you guys appreciated and found this kind of helpful. Follow, like, share. You guys have a good day.